So you can see we've got a couple of guys from Funktion-One in the background here, and I thought it was quite interesting to show the setup, because they're just getting going on setting up the room with the speakers, and as you can see, it's quite a scientific, technical process, more than I would have thought as somebody who doesn't know a huge amount about sort of audio spaces and how you use it. But I thought it was quite interesting just to show, before we've even got going, the sort of prep that needs to be done from an audio kind of sound point of view. And Christian's going to be speaking to me later on to give me and share with us a bit more about Funktion-One, about the speakers, and about the setup and how they work the way they do. But yeah, quite interesting to see just how technical it is in setting up speakers in the room. So I'm here with Christian from Audio Feed, who's bought all of the Funktion-One speakers and done the setup with us today. So just tell me, because I know nothing about this sort of side of it, give me a little brief background of Funktion-One and why you've done the setup you've done today here.
So Funktion-One are a British manufacturer based up in Dorking. They have been a big part of Audio Feed's sort of legacy up till now. Oz Jeffries, who's the owner of the business, has been a Funktion-One lover since he started the business, and it's entirely why I joined the company as well, because they're a well-renowned brand and headed by a guy called Tony Andrews, who is a genius in his own right. Whether he would take credit for that himself, I don't know. So the stack we've got here is really made up of, I suppose, two components, but there's actually four drivers. So you've got the Evo 2 box on top, which is made up of a 1-inch, an 8-inch and a 12-inch driver. So there's effectively three speakers in here. And then on the bottom, the subs is just two F118s, which have been double stacked.
You were setting it up in this kind of quad and looking at right angles, is that right? Because there's a lot of science, isn't there, in the setup?
Yeah, so it's basic maths. Unfortunately, something that I hadn't done after school until I started at Audio Feed, which is Pythagoras, basically. So it's more just working out a perfect square or rectangle or right angle. Right angle triangle is really what we're trying to achieve, because the speed of sound is quite slow, and so if you just chuck the stacks in any sort of formation, there's a chance that the time alignment will be out by however much, 1 millisecond, 10 milliseconds, and that can cause this almost galloping kind of effect where, let's say you've got a bass drum that you're hearing over that side slower than this side, and that can be really, really disorientating for a listener.
Yes.
And so getting the maths correct is really imperative, and there's not much room for compensation.
I suppose, like you say, if you don't get that right at the start, it impacts everything about that sound
experience.
Exactly,
yeah, and it makes the coverage uneven, and it can nullify the effect of the cancellation outside of the quad as well. So it's important to get that right. Sometimes it can take a few tries, like it did today with this lovely curved room.
I mean, just because it's interesting, how long has it taken to set up today?
About 2 hours, something like that. Yeah, which I wouldn't say is a long setup by any means. Like, you know, we've definitely had longer, but normally it doesn't take 4 tries to get it that right in a room which is wide open like this. But it's definitely the curves were. Cool. So we've set up a quadraphonic system, or 4-point, for this particular install, mainly because it fit with the visual aesthetic of what they're trying to achieve here, but also from a coverage point of view as well. It's one of Audio Feed's kind of signature setups, where it can cover across the dance floor in a really nice even fashion, but also create some cancellation outside of the quad as well, which helps things like off-site noise management. Cool. And then everything has been powered. Well, we've got a nice little DJ setup here just for playback, but then sort of part of the brains and heart of the sound system is our amp rack here, which is all made up of MC² amps, who are, again, one of our manufacturers that we don't tend to stray too far from, really. Today we're only actually using these 2 Deltas, and these 2 are from a previous gig which we've just come off of. But we've got the Delta 100, which is driving all the subs, and then the Delta 80, which is driving all the tops.
So I'm leaning against a very expensive Funktion-One speaker here, but I wanted just to say we're really grateful to Funktion-One for partnering with us. And one of the reasons we chose Funktion-One when we came up with this idea was really we wanted to work with a company that shared the same values as us in terms of producing music and audio of a high quality, and being experimental and innovative, which is what Funktion-One is all about. So we're really grateful they've worked with us on this project, and it's exciting, I think, for a brand that's more traditionally seen in raves or festival spaces. I think it's really interesting to see this sort of equipment being used in an art space with the artists of the future. So we'll see how it goes. So we are here, most of the artists are here now, the students at AUB, and they are setting up their canvases and just getting ready to start. And we've got our dancers and movement artists who are on the floor right now just warming up and getting ready to start the experiment. So really exciting. We've got a really diverse range of people here with different backgrounds, different mediums. So we've bought materials from the studios here for them to use. So artists, time to grab canvases and your materials, and we'll get started. Go for it. Go on, Molly.
We're going to pick a frequency.
Yeah.
He's going to pick the frequency.
Who? He is. Yeah, cool.
So we just have to kind of talk about the frequency afterwards.
Afterwards, yeah, fine. Let's do that afterwards. Tell you what. Okay, guys, just so you know, because we're going to get started in a minute. So the first track we're going to play, the first frequency, is about 12 minutes long, and you're going to stick with the canvas you've got on your boards. So you'll have about 12 minutes, which is a lifetime in art, allegedly. So once we start the frequency, you can see how the music feels, see what these guys are doing, and then you can stick with that canvas for the whole of that time, and then we'll let you know what's happening after that. So obviously the music you're hearing, the frequencies, so this was created by us. So this is original music we've created, and we've worked with neuroscientists, and we've also worked with Royal Academy musicians. So the beautiful cello you can hear coming in is a Royal Academy cellist coming in and creating those frequencies. And as you guys know, being art students, a lot of sound therapy is to do with art therapy and how we respond to sound. So we were really interested to see, coming from a sort of scientist and art point of view, how frequencies rather than just traditional music would change like your output and your art. So that was the idea. Right, so let's find out how everybody felt about what they just, can do. So one of our lovely movement artists, we can call you. So we were just talking earlier about it. So tell me, just heard a frequency. How was it moving and how did it make you feel?
I think fundamentally as a dancer to know that it's not about kind of what you have to come up with, and it's about the responding to the stimulus. That immediately changes that responsibility that you have.
Yep.
So it kind of gives over to that like, I'm just going to see what comes out, what happens, and then you shut down everything, and then you just allow the emotion.
Quite an organic reaction.
It's definitely organic, and I think with that lovely sustained cello, just felt quite uplifting and slightly kind of reflective as well.
Yep.
So you could just have those moments you're like, actually I need to come back into my kind of own energy and my rhythm and just see how we're meeting each other.
And did you feel, you were sort of, as I was watching, did you feel it almost made you be more aware of your body and your movements and your limbs because of the type of frequency it is?
Absolutely, to shut down anything else, any other noise, and just really listen to what the effect of that, the rhythm and that sound and that experience is internally, and then let it come from that kind of, like you say, an organic process, which feels really authentic.
Yes, very authentic,
Comes from. I wasn't necessarily concerned about what I looked like. It's about how it kind of manifested through my body.
In quite a primal way. Because it's funny because when Shab and I have talked about this project as well, I've talked very much about, you know, going back to tribes, caves, men and women, we danced around a fire to tell stories and connect and create together in a very primal sense. And for me, this is still quite a primal experiment where you've got real live bodies in a room in a circle together, like a chanting circle, listening to something together and all experiencing and moving to it.
Certainly, it was very selfishly, it was joyful and very profound, just like to have that
It's a different type of resonance, isn't it? Like, because we all have music everywhere. Of course we do. In dance, we think about what's the track we're going to use. We can all access Spotify, but I think it's quite nice to go back to just the resonance of something really simple and then feel it and not think 5, 6, 7, 8, how am I going to respond?
Is it a different type of improv then?
Yeah, absolutely, because you're going in a much more physical response. And initially, I wasn't seeing where Claire was, but I sort of knew Claire would be doing exactly the same inner way of unpicking it to when I needed to see you. We were on the same wavelength. Sorry to use that pun, but it did feel like that. So I think the simplicity is quite valuable when, you know, every advert, every film, it's all got amazing cinematic music. That's not knocking music, but actually it's quite nice to go back to the basics just to explore and actually find your slight inner peace in it in a way.
Hello, so just played the one frequency. Tell me, what did it make you feel?
I think that there's something so similar to dancers and artists. I think that the way your body moves, it's not about thought, it's just about just getting it on, and I guess it's like art on floor. It's like moving your body and allowing that to create artwork, and the dancers were absolutely beautiful. I was watching them, I was painting, I was sketching, and I was just like, oh my god, there was something so amazing about the relationship they had. It started so far away, and then they made their way towards each other, and it was always like there was that magnet drawing them together. It was really beautiful.
So tell me, what was your response kind of artistically to what you just heard on the frequency?
Well, I thought the music was like very moving and kind of made you feel like sentimental, and so I kind of made it feel like a very feminine energy and like surrounding like this like light and like energy in the center. Kind of like that.
And affected your artwork?
Yeah, I think at the beginning it was quite kind of overwhelming. I didn't really know how to respond to it. But as the dancers paired with the music, it kind of felt more at peace, and it kind of took me in the direction quite naturally. And I just kind of ran with it, and it just kept going kind of thing. So
So we are here outside the Crab Studio, and I've got Jane and Claire, who are part of the AUB dance team here, who tutor and help guide all of the young dancers and movement artists. And they've been taking part today in our exercise with the students. So let's hear from them. I'm not a dancer. How was it, especially with SoundSanctuary? You played some frequency tracks first. How was it dancing and moving and responding to that?
I think it's interesting. I don't know if you feel the same, but I think the sense you assume that with more sound and less sound, you're going to feel that you move more and you move less. But actually with those sound frequencies, it's really intense. Like there's a physicality that's quite different. So you are doing the movement, but actually I personally feel I've got so much more tension in my body when I'm thinking about things. And that's a switch, because you would assume less sound means you'll be a bit more minimal, and that isn't how it works.
If you're thinking about the frequency, you can really start to tune into those different kind of tensions and energies. And so if there is something kind of deeply kind of just grounding that track, and you just feel that, and it kind of bubbles up from inside, it almost feels like a really deep kind of connection
primal
to the movement.
It's
And then it manifests through the limbs, but it sort of starts from this really deeply kind of guttural place, which I think is something that
I think it's also how you know, with whatever art form it is, it's how you come to the experiment, the playground, because actually there is a sense for us that that's really liberating. Me particularly, you're not thinking about how do I instruct this person to do X, Y, Z. It's like actually your reaction can be instinctive.
So
and
is
that's
it a different
quite liberating.
type of improv then? Because we talked a lot about improvising to music that's lyrical, it's more traditional music. So is it a different type of improv? Did you find it was testing you or pushing you up your comfort zone a bit?
I was going into my head quite a lot more.
I think you have to be much stricter with yourself to sort of stop performing and stop thinking about the shapes that you're making or what it looks like as an external sort of observer, what their experience of it is, and actually really be quite authentic with your movement choices and really think about how is it making me feel, therefore how do I respond to it. And I think that's a real shift in terms of like output and what it looks like to then actually not worrying about that and worrying about how it really does.
The process rather than the output.
And being
almost.
that sort of physical muse for another art form, I think is key. It's definitely how we work here. It's how we will work in the future with our course. And I think that sense of being this muse to another art form, to enable that art form to respond to that movement is really key, rather than working in silo and saying, we dance, tick, we've done it to the level we think we should, artists separate. It's like, oh, okay, how can one...
It's a conversation.
How can one have that conversation, that narrative between art forms? I think for the artists that's really liberating. There, particularly as students, they're like, oh, you know, there's a different conversation, and it's okay to not get a polished end product. And not finish it. And I think that's actually really quite key at this moment in time, because it's
especially
all about
for young
the perfect
dancers,
end product. And
knowing
it shouldn't be.
Yeah, knowing that they've got the space to break the rules and to just be, rather than have to produce something.
And I spoke to some of the artists in there about, you know, a lot of them are very savvy online, and there's a lot of digital creative communities, which is great. But I was talking to them about the importance, I feel, from my generation of live experiences together. So how, as both tutors and as artist practitioners yourself, how do you feel about the importance of bringing creators from different disciplines together in a live, real space, rather than, say, just on an online space?
Massive. And I mean, actually, one of our third years, Bryony, who's in there improvising, the reason she's particularly here is because her final project is about creating safe spaces for dancers, particularly with neurodiversity, but creating safe spaces to enable movement, art, photography, whatever, to come together and create. So she's really exploring it from a place of creating the space right to enable the art form to happen. And I think that's quite liberating too, that, you know, you're testing out lots of different methods.
I think for me the heartbreaking conversation I had with a dancer just recently, because I brought some live music, a live drummer into my class recently, and some of them had never experienced, a lot of them had never experienced a live dance and drumming or live music experience, an exchange, and for me that's really heartbreaking, because
it was our
the
norm.
energies match.
The norm.
And
live musicians were just standard, weren't they?
Yeah.
It's now a bit of a shock for the musician, you said as well.
For the musician
hadn't
never danced,
done it either.
Yeah,
and you think,
played for a dance class. So for everybody, it was a joyful, uplifting, liberating,
offline experience.
Yeah, it was. Need more of it.
Yeah. So the frequency you just heard, not that it may not mean anything to you right now, is 174 hertz. So if you could all just write 174 somewhere on your piece of art, because then it would be really interesting for it to look back and see the different frequencies will play and then how you responded artistically. So that was 174 hertz, and we'll be playing a different frequency in a minute to see your artistic response. So we've got 3 of the artists here who've just completed another frequency, and they've got their artwork in front of me. So first off, tell me about the piece you created and how the frequency made you feel.
It was very resonant almost, kind of reminded me of a crystal glass, and it felt kind of like it was drawing you in, like spirally, so I just kind of went with that, and kind of the refraction of crystal glasses got me thinking of the colours around the sides almost, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. No, it makes sense. You can see that in the work, so that does make sense. And how about you, because you've created something else with chalks and pastels?
Yeah, it felt very bodily, so I was very conscious of the way I was touching the pastels to the paper and using my hands to blend them, and it felt quite meditative, which is why I've got a lot of repeated patterns, and felt very aware of my body and the movements I was making.
Did it come out quite naturally, this idea of this pattern?
Yeah, I think so.
Really cool. And how about you? Because you've got something else is this charcoal?
No,
is this a crayon or a
I think it's the pastels.
And what did it make you feel? And
I think I was going in and out of both using the music to guide me and obviously the dancers. And I was kind of picking, because there was the 3 main girls right at the beginning, and I was like, oh, I'll do a colour for each, and I'll pick a limb. So I was like, I'll go for arms for one girl, legs for one, and then it kind of all just started moving together. And I think it got to about here where I was just like, let me just do a line wherever that arm moves towards. And it's kind of, that's how it's developed.
Is it quite different improvising and drawing moving models
Definitely.
as opposed to a life model where traditionally they would be sitting still?
Absolutely, yeah. I think you've got to be a little bit more free form with it, and you've got to flow with it, because otherwise you're just oh, I need to get this arm perfect. And hold on, you need to feel the arm, have the motion of it.
Yeah, more
yes,
feeling.
yes, absolutely.
So we're just finishing up here, and we're just packing up behind us. We finished with the creative project for the day. It has been a brilliant day, and we've had some brilliant feedback from some of the artists who've said it's really pushed them artistically out of their comfort zone. The dancers and movement artists have said how valuable they found it to explore music and frequency in a different way. And I do want to say thank you to KMR Audio. So the music that we produce for TheSoundSanctuary Das Special that we've been playing on these beautiful Funktion-One speakers was produced in Bristol and Brighton with some of the Special crew members, but it's KMR Audio we've been using to produce the music, which is why those tracks sound so great. And so doing it here in the drawing studio with this reverb, with some amazing artists and dancers, has been a fantastic project. So we're really looking forward to seeing what the next stage is.